This is Deborah Lanham, President and CEO of the Alpharetta Chamber of Commerce. So glad to have you here today. We have such a wonderful event in store for you, Women Who Walk the Walk. And this is the virtual edition. We all know what's going on in 2020. And so grateful that you have made the decision to join us today. We have a wonderful program in store. So let's get started. I'm so excited to introduce to you, first of all, today's team. We have Michael Grillo, who is with My Mobile Life producing today. He is our digital marketing company at the Chamber, and so glad to have Michael on board, helping us behind the scenes, as well as making sure today is produced well. Also with us is Melody Cookson. She's the Member Services Coordinator for the Alpharetta Chamber, my teammate, and certainly cannot do this work without her, and want to welcome Melody, and she will be around floating on the event today and helping with the chat feature. And then also want to introduce to you Donna Murphy, Board of Directors member with the Chamber. I'm also the chair of this year's Women Who Walk the Walk Committee. And Donna, I want to just thank you for your work and welcome you, and just ask you to take a few minutes to introduce this year's committee.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much, Deborah. Well, as we all know, we cannot do our jobs without a good team behind us. And I had an excellent group of members of my committee. So I would like to just take a quick moment and recognize those ladies. Lisa Schipple of Lisa Schipple Law, and she's also the immediate past board chair and one of the sponsors of today's event. And apologize, I'm going to apologize ahead of time if I do not pronounce your last name properly. Ann Wisniewski. I hope I did that justice. She's with AJW Interior Designs and also a sponsor today. Charles C. Forehand is on our committee with the Forehand Group as a sponsor. Patty Murray with Anchor Home Mortgage. And then I have to say a special thanks to Crystal Cloud, who is my right-hand girl and my assistant with the Donna Murphy Realty Group. So thank you, ladies, so much for all that you did. And also Deborah and Melody, you guys are just amazing to support us and put something like this on. So thank you. Thank you very much for all you did.
Wow, absolutely, Donna. And thank you. What a year we've had. And I know it's just special when women come together, business women sharing insights, but sharing our lives. And I know today you're going to feel encouraged and inspired. And I hope even virtually that there's a way that friendship can also be continued, but also new friendships made. As Donna mentioned, we have sponsors that have made this event possible, and we really can't do what we do at a chamber without our sponsors holding up the mission of the chamber and supporting our work. And so today we do want to recognize those sponsors. I will mention we had the expo and sponsor booths. This feature will be alive and well until midnight tonight. So if you didn't have a chance to go in and visit some of the sponsors, definitely take a look at who has supported this event today. There's some videos in there and also just some product and website links. So check it out. And again, we thank our sponsors. I'd like to ask Donna again to come back to the stage. And would you please, Donna, share a bit with us about Atlanta Fine Homes?
Well, Jenny Pruitt is the founder of Atlanta Fine Homes, and she cannot be with us today. So we have a video that we would like to play on her behalf. I mean, due to COVID, she just wasn't comfortable. But if we could cue that video up, I think that that would be a good introduction for Atlanta Fine Homes.
One of the things that I value the most by being in this business is that I'm there for people. That when they need a pat on the back, an encouraging word, I want them to know that they can call on me. Give texture. I'm Jenny Pruitt, the Executive Chairman and Founder of Atlanta Fine Homes Sotheby's International Realty. Well, I'm a third-generation Atlantan, and I've been blessed enough to live in this city my entire life. I started my real estate career in 1968. Started Jenny Pruitt and Associates in 1988, and then in 2007, David and I started Atlanta Fine Homes Sotheby's International Realty. I love Atlanta. I love the genteel spirit that they have here, and I love the business I'm in of selling homes. I think I could attribute a lot of my success to people that helped me along the way, but also my confidence and my faith. Family, I think, is where we all come from, and so it's most important. The roots of our family and is what really has set us apart in this business. David Bayming is my business partner and also my son-in-law. And what David and I have done is we've built a company that is the type of company that we enjoy being in. If you care about the people first, the bottom line will come. It's building a personal relationship with your clients, and I think our agents have really excelled in that. I'm so proud to drive down the Atlanta streets and see the Atlanta Fine Homes Sotheby's International Realty signs, and that those sellers entrusted us to sell their greatest asset that they probably will ever have. That means so much to me.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Donna, for sharing that. Wonderful to hear from Jenny Pruitt, and we hope to see her live one of these days in the future. Also, I'd like to ask to come to the stage on behalf of Renaissance Bank, Debbie Nowak, our personal banker on the stage today. Debbie, we'd love to hear from you, and thank you again for your sponsorship.
Oh, thank you for letting us be a sponsor. We're really proud to be part of this. I believe this is our third year that we've done this, and it's one of my favorite programs. I think it's important that we support our community and getting involved in banking services that fit the needs of the community and fit the needs of the customer. And one of the products that I'm excited to tell everybody about is our free business checking. It's a way that we can help businesses control costs. And I encourage you, if you are paying for your banking experiences, you need to give us a call and let us help manage some of that for you. I think what Jenny said about having a personal relationship is so important. I really liked her video. And we believe full-heartedly in personal service, and that's how we get to know our customers. And I want to get to know you guys so I know what you need, and I can help you and I can understand you better. And I have a great team that works here with us, and we would love to get to know you and see what we can help you with. That's what we're here for. And I appreciate you letting us be here, and I hope you enjoy the Women That Walk the Walk. I think Donna's next.
Okay, I think I'm up again.
Yeah, there you go.
So it's a great honor for me to be able to introduce today's keynote speaker. And there are many interesting things I can say about her, Tricia Dempsey. But perhaps the most impressive thing to me in reading through her bio and her background was that she's coached over 5,000 women to take their careers to the next level. Tricia Dempsey is the founder and CEO of Thrive Her. And unlike traditional coaching models, Thrive Her utilizes digital courses, group coaching, and I love this term, the Thrive Tribe community, to transform long-term success for women and all that they can achieve. Tricia transformed her own career from a 7th grade teacher to a founder of an IT staffing firm, Agile, the #2 fastest growing staffing firm in the nation, and a 3-time Inc. 5,000 company. She's also a breast cancer survivor. She served on the board for the Susan G. Komen, where she raised over $320,000 through her own fundraising event. She's also served as the president for the Women in Technology. So without further delay, I'd like to introduce to you our keynote speaker, Tricia Dempsey.
Hello, and thank you so much to everyone. Y'all, I'm going to try to get this little video where I can see myself a little bit better today, but it's so nice to be with you virtually. And thank you to Donna for making an introduction and for Deborah for having me here as your guest speaker today. It was so great to hop into the networking session and learn a little bit more about you and why you came today. And it sounds like all of us could use a little inspiration. So I'm hoping I deliver. Inspire is part of my purpose statement. So I'm hoping that you leave here feeling completely satisfied. But it's nice to be here today. I'm gonna use really fancy slides because I really did not want to share my screen and cut myself off from you being able to see me and me being able to say you. So this is my slides today. I'm gonna talk a little bit about my journey first. And my journey started as a 7th grade school teacher and really ended in the last few years as an 8-figure CEO. And sometimes when I think back, I started at Lilburn Middle School in Gwinnett County. That's where I started teaching language arts and math for years. And about 5 years into that journey, and some of you may feel like this, I'm going to talk about some of the symptoms that you feel when you know you're not in the right place. And hopefully you can relate to some of these. But I used to come home at the end of every day and take a 2-hour nap when I got home as a school teacher. It still to this day was the hardest job I've ever had. And about 5 years in, I had decided I was going to take the summer and look for a new position. And I interviewed at lots of different sales jobs everywhere. I really wanted to be in sales. And nobody would hire a 7th grade school teacher. Shocker. So if you've ever tried to change from a completely different industry to a new one and you've got rejected 1,000 times, that's what that summer felt like. But I finally landed a job in an IT staffing firm in the middle of Dunwoody called DBS. And I worked for that company for about 5 years. It was about a $5 million company. 5 years later, the owner sold it to a $1 billion company. So I think there was somebody, it might have been on the phone earlier or on our session earlier that was saying, hey, I was a big fish in a small pond and I became a small fish in a big pond. That's what that experience was like. And about 2 years in, I had a baby, and like most of us that reach that period of life, you're thinking to yourself, I woke up every day thinking, should I be a mom? Should I be a worker? Like, should I be an employer? Should I own a business? And literally 2 years into that journey, I went and told my boss one day, hey, listen, I was 27, y'all. I think back about this and how much I didn't know. Thank God I didn't know what I didn't know. And I went to him and just said, hey, I think I'm going to start my own business. I think I need more work-life balance. And I'm ready to go do this on my own. I've learned enough in my 5 years. I am a pro. Let's do this. And so he came to me and said, hey, listen, I've been thinking about it. Why don't I give you money? We'll go start a business together. And that's what we did. I was 27 at that time and became president of my very first company. In about 3 years' time, we had grown that company to about $3 million in revenue. But I was with partners. And for those of you who have partners, maybe you can relate to this. I was with 2 partners. One was a funding partner. One was a working partner. The funding partner was awesome. The working partner, not so awesome. And so we ended up 3 years into that journey having a lot of discussions about like, hey, how do we make this more equitable? And how do we make sure everybody's bringing something to the table? And in the midst of all of that, and quite frankly, just a tremendous amount of stress, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And that was a shock for me. So I went through 6 months of chemotherapy. And then one day I came home and I told my husband, listen, I think I can do this on my own. And he was like, awesome. When your hair grows back and we're finished with chemo. And I was like, no, like in the next week or so, I think I'm going to resign. I think I'm going to do it on my own. And my husband, who's always supported my crazy, he said, let's think about it. Let's talk through it. Let's pray about it. And I went back in the next Monday and resigned. And y'all, I was bald as a Q-tip. I was exhausted, but and you had to know how difficult this decision was. The stress of staying was harder than the stress of leaving. That's how challenging of a situation that we were in. And so I stepped out on my own. I started my own company, and I had these thoughts like almost everybody does when they start their real first business. Do I have what it takes to make it? Am I just an imposter? I literally didn't put the word CEO on my business card for about the first 2 years that I had that business. I was a 30-year-old CEO, and y'all, I did not feel qualified. But within about a year's time, we had grown that company to $1 million. And all of a sudden, I started to feel like a CEO. And over time, we grew that business to almost $10 million. And I knew probably 5 years before I actually sold it, I knew it was time to sell. I knew it because I would come home and I would complain. And my husband and daughter would be like, please don't tell us a story about that again today. And please, and the amount of struggle that I was feeling really outweighed the amount of joy I felt in that business. That business gave me such an opportunity to serve clients in a way that I was so proud of, to have a team and build a team of people that were such a great values match for what I believed in and what I believed was going to make a difference in our industry. And not just like real estate or banking or other things. Staffing is really hard to differentiate yourself. And so it was something that over time, I was so proud that we built. But if you've ever had that little nagging voice in the back of your head that says you should be thinking about the next chapter, it's time to think about the next chapter. It's time to think about the next chapter. And then you start having things show up in your life, like a physical ailment, or you have, a stress level, or you're on depression medication or anxiety medication, and you're feeling like you are just not in your zone. That is what I believe happens to us when we know it's time to make a shift. And I teach something from a book that I read that I absolutely love called Necessary Endings. Y'all, I mean, I sound like I've changed a lot of jobs. I've only had 3 jobs really in my entire life, but each one of them has come at the end to that point where I know it's time to bring the chapter to a close. And so what happened with that business was back in 2015, I came home one day. I literally was on the phone with my coach in the coach closet in our office where it was private, and I had a moment where I was on the phone with him, and I was just in tears. And I brought back a problem that we had solved multiple times. We still could not solve the problem, and finally he said to me, Tricia, I think it's time to solve a different problem. I think it's time to sell Agile. And when you have a company that you've built from scratch, I love this video from Jenny Pruitt, by the way. What a beautiful, classy, amazing woman. But I'll tell you, when you build something from scratch and then you know it's time to leave it, it is like sending your kid off to college. It is like when they get married and they leave you and they never come back again. It was my baby. And I remember just breaking out into tears in this closet. And I said, I knew in my spirit, it was the right time to make that decision. And I was so scared to come home and tell my family that night that I wanted to sell the company. Yeah. Catherine and Jeff are sitting on the back porch, grilling and having a beer and just hanging out. And I literally walked in. I had those red eyes you have when you've been crying all day long. I have those red eyes, and I walk in and they're like, what's wrong? And I was like, I want to tell you something. I'm so afraid to tell you because, for us, that was such a big part of our financial equation. It was such a big part of our identity. There was so much tied to that business for us as a family and for me individually. And I said, I think it's time to sell. My husband went in and got a bottle of champagne, and we literally toasted it on the back porch that night. And so I say all this to say that that you have these times in life when it's just time for you to take a different step, for you to close the chapter and move to the next thing. And a lot of times for most of us women, I just did a Facebook Live about this yesterday. For most of us women, we really, really don't do it until it comes down to something that happens to us, something that's forced on us, something like a pandemic. Something like I got laid off from my job, a Me Too moment, literally being discriminated against, something that happens that's, not what you planned at all, but it's the universe's way of bumping you into the right lane so that you can get better aligned with what you are meant to do. And that's what happened at that moment. So Back in 2015, I sold my company to a publicly traded company. I had a great exit, and we had one more year left before Catherine graduated from high school. So we started looking for lake properties. Having a lake house was a 20-year goal for Jeff and I. We always knew we would end up on the water. It was our happiest place. It was our most peaceful place. And listen, if you feel like that about a place, put it on your vision board. Think about it at a later time, how you want to live more of that life on a full-time basis, because I think that's what we really manifested where we are today. But we ended up looking for lake property. We looked in Georgia for the longest time. And then one day I get to church and I get a little Facebook ad on my phone for a little lake up in South Carolina called Lake Kiowee. And we went up, jumped on a boat. The guy took us to one lot and said, this is the only lot that will meet your requirements. We got off. Wild turkeys were running everywhere. I felt like I was in a movie, so wild turkeys are running everywhere on our lot. We get off and I'm like, this is it. This is it. We had dreamed of this moment for 20 years, and you knew it. You just know it in your gut when you feel it. I literally drove into the neighborhood and I was like, I think this is it. He drops us off on the lot. I'm like, I think this is it. The lot becomes available the very next day. I'm like, God is so good how he orchestrates all of this. We put a contract on the lot the very next day. We got it. And you guys, that was, from the time I sold my business to the time I moved up here, it was a couple of years. It took some time to find the right place. So we built this house over a 2-year period. We finally move in. Catherine graduates from high school. The very next day, we had sold our house in Atlanta. We had moved into an apartment so that when we were ready to go, we could move immediately. Such a good experience, by the way, to go back from living in a home to living in an apartment at some point in time. If you haven't had that experience, it was so good to be reminded of the fact that the happiness that we have comes from the people that we're with in our homes every day. It doesn't come from our homes. And I love my home. I love interior. I love everything about being in a home. But I realized at that moment, I remember saying to Jeff a lot of days, well, we know if someday it happened that we lost everything, we know what it's like to live in an apartment, and we are still really happy and in love, and we love each other as a family. So that was a tangent and a side note, but for whoever that's for, I just wanted to mention that today. And so we moved up here to South Carolina. I was so thrilled and happy, and designed our house from scratch and just loved every inch of it, and loved being on the water every day and loved being outside. And I felt my anxiety level go down dramatically as the months progressed. But I also felt this just almost like a strong feeling of, I don't think this was the right move. And literally 3 months in, can you imagine this? This has been a 20-year dream, a 2-year build. Everything we did has revolved around getting to this part in life. And I bring Jeff on the porch one day during lunch, and I said to him, I think we made the wrong move. I don't think this is right. And we started going through, well, what about living here? What about living here? What about living here? What about living here? And we get to the end and he says, listen, we can't think of a better place to move to. It wouldn't be the end of the world if we have to sell the house, but it would be sad because here we dreamed of this for 20 years, Trish, and we got what we wanted. And now why are you not happy? I don't get it. And I literally took me about a year, maybe even a year and a half. And I was saying to somebody early, Hilda and I were having a conversation about, y'all, to give you an idea, I'm looking out the window on my street right now. We live on a road that's about 1.5 miles long, and we were the only full-time house on the road. My husband and I would see each other for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day. We used to complain that we never got lunch together. Now we had every meal together every day, and I love him, but y'all, that is a lot with your husband. I saw my dogs and my husband. I went to Publix 30 minutes away in Clemson once a week to get groceries, and that was my social life. And for anybody that knows me from Atlanta, y'all, I was very active in the community and doing all the things. But I felt like where that chapter had really taken me was that I needed to detox from the busyness that I had created in my life, from the traffic, from the nonstop constant appointments I had on my calendar, from the walking out in the morning with my phone on my ear, walking in to dinner with my phone on my ear every single day. And so I was saying to Hilda earlier, we've been in quarantine for 3 years since we lived here. So I realized that everybody's in the midst of what I was in, 3 years ago. Everybody's in the midst of that now, the giving up of all the conveniences and everything that we're giving up. And y'all, the mindset shift of shifting to, how is this happening for me? How is this changing my life for the better? How have chapters come to a close that needed to come to a close so that I could be exactly where I am today? That's what this journey has been like for us. And so here we are, I am here now. Nobody's reporting to me. I am still CEO of my company in Atlanta. And I finally realized I was going to give you guys a little before, during, and after. But before I do, let me ask you in the chat. Let me stop talking for a minute and ask you in the chat. On a scale of 1 to 10, how energized, fulfilled, and satisfied do you feel today in your life? How energized, fulfilled, and satisfied? And you can think about your life as a whole. Answer this as a whole. How do you feel when you think about work, when you think about your relationships, when you think about your health, when you think about your family, when you think about your church life, your community life? How do you feel? So pop into the chat kind of what your number is, and I'll be on the lookout for these. I think this is one of the things that I've realized is as I decided to make the shift, here's where I was in my before. Y'all, look at this. This is actually a chaise lounge that sits in my bedroom. Pretend this is a beautiful picture, but this is my kindergarten drawing of a chaise lounge in my bedroom. And I would wake up every morning and I would have my little, what I call my happy hour, my little quiet time, my prayer time, my Bible time. And I would look out the window, and I had realized when I moved here that 3 things happened at the same time. Women will go through 11 transitions in their life, 3 more than men will go through. And every time we go through a transition, it makes us feel wobbly. Hopefully you know what I mean. But the thing, oh good, I'm in the right place now. I'm seeing the stage. Thanks, y'all. Good numbers. Do you even need this speech today? Maybe you do. Just stay with me. But we start to feel wobbly. And I realized when I would sit on that chaise lounge in the morning that I was in the midst of this huge transition, probably the largest one I had ever been through. One, I was not a leader for the first time. Like, I didn't lead people actively. I still had the title of president, but I was not actively leading people for the first time in like 25 years. 2, my daughter had just gone off to college, my only child. And that feels like a death in the family, by the way. That was really rough for me. The 3 of us are a really tight unit. And 3rd is I had moved to this little town called Sunset, South Carolina, with a population of 1,100 people. And I was like, what in the world? How did I get here? And how did this all happen? But it was sitting on that chaise lounge, looking out the window every morning and literally being in tears a lot of days that I realized something had to change. So I really set out on this journey to find my purpose. Now, purpose is such a mushy, gushy, hard to really find. Everybody talks about you should know it, but nobody gives you a clear picture of how you should know it thing. And so what I did was I started out on this journey during finding my purpose that looked like this. And maybe you can relate to this. I was in prayer in the Bible. Come on, Lord, please tell me what I'm supposed to be doing at this point in my life. I was tapping into Oprah every Super Soul Sunday for some inspiration. I was listening to podcasts. Y'all, I read so many books trying to figure out what my purpose was. I was on YouTube every day Googling how to find your purpose. I was listening to TED Talks. Like, can anybody relate to this? This was my life. Like, I knew I had to get myself out of this funk, and I dove into learning because learning's such my comfort zone. Learning was where I felt like I was going to get the answers. And I never did. But I'm going to tell you what happened is I finally, after all of that, 6 months of seeking, I really worked with my very, very best friend, worked with me to really identify my purpose. And here's what I discovered is that my purpose is to inspire and activate women to live their purpose, leverage their strengths, and love what they do. Because I don't know about you, if you've ever felt like this, I have always been successful. I mean, I've always learned how to make money. I've always learned how to survive. I've always gotten promoted. I've always, if you look from the outside, I was always in the success bucket for sure. But I was so not thriving in my life. Most of that time spent in success was spent in surviving, but not thriving. And so I really wanted to see if I could have both, if I could really thrive, and if I could be happy, and if I could be living my purpose, and if I could be using my strengths, and what that would feel like. So I set on this journey to think about, what does that world look like for me? And that's how Thrive Her was born. So I called my CEO and I said to him, hey, listen, I've been coaching women every week my entire life for a year, and I'm thinking that might be a good retirement plan for me. Do you have a problem if I just set up a little coaching practice on the side? And he was like, sure, Trish. You know, I was still producing on an individual basis. The company was going well. I transitioned the office to Atlanta. Everything was going well. And he said, absolutely, do it. And so I stood up Thrive Her and I wanted his blessing, and I wasn't quite ready to leave yet. And a year later, we coached 500 women. And about 6 or into that, I remember I called him back and I said, hey, listen, you remember the thing I said I'm just going to do on the side, and it's going to be a little baby business? And he was like, yeah. And I said, I think this can be a real business, and it really makes me happy. And you guys, he was not happy about that news. I was put in my resignation to resign. He didn't acknowledge it for 3 months, like would not even talk to me about it. I text him, I emailed him, I call him. He wouldn't even so I was like, what do I do? What do you do when your CEO doesn't acknowledge your resignation? And finally, I put it into the VP of HR and said, 2 weeks from now is my last day. I'm going to kick myself off of here and start my own thing and really go after this full time. It was making me so happy. And so back in August of last year, I left full time, almost a year ago now, or a little over a year ago now. And you guys, it has been the most amazing journey. So if you're not familiar with Thrive Her, what we do is we help women create purpose-fueled businesses and lives that they love. We have 2 programs. One is called Pinpoint Your Purpose, which I think just changes everything about life, because your purpose is not your job. After taking 500 women through this class, or maybe 550 at this point, your purpose is not your job. It is who you are wherever you are. So it is who you are with your family and your friends and your community and your church and your job. It is who you are wherever you are. And if you understand and look for and find your purpose, which we have a very structured, proven process to take women through that in about 4 weeks' time, and you get to the other side where you actually know your purpose, here's the thing: you cannot unsee it. And here's the good and the bad news about purpose. You will be unlocked to do things you've never done before, but you will pretty much have to blow up a good portion of your life to make it happen. And I find that almost anybody that really is going to step into their purpose really has to make either sometimes really subtle shifts, but really most of the time large shifts, because we largely deny ourselves the ability to walk in our purpose every single day because we are so afraid of disappointing somebody else, or letting somebody else down, or not taking care of our fragile ecosystem, or all of the things that we worry about as women. But I'm going to tell you what happens is, once you understand your purpose, here's what it looks like. We literally take people through this 4-week process. And when they get to the end, we ask them to do 2 things. So what we ask them to do is we ask them to keep an evidence journal. This is my journal. An evidence journal of all of the times throughout the day that they get to use their purpose, so that they can start to see where it's showing up on a regular basis. And a lot of us, it might have been showing up all along. We just didn't even name it and claim it. We didn't even acknowledge it. And the second thing I asked them to do is I asked them to think about their calendar. This was literally my calendar this morning of things that are happening today, where I'm like, my prayer has become, God, give me the wisdom to recognize when I can use my purpose today, and allow me to use my strengths and bring that forth in anybody's life that I touch today. So that was my prayer for all of you before I got here this morning, that in some way, something that I've talked about today touches you and unlocks your desire to find your purpose. Because I think once we unlock that, we unlock our full potential, full potential. So here's what happens is once you find your purpose, three things really happen for every woman that I've seen go through this. One is they have tremendous amounts of fuel and energy for what they do. Like the amount of days I go fall in the bed and I'm absolutely exhausted but completely thrilled and happy is far surpasses any other result or financial goal or achievement that I've ever had before. When I get off the phone with a woman and I know I've unlocked something in her, that almost makes me want to cry. When I know I've unlocked something in her today that she sees about herself, that she's hidden or denied herself of for the very longest time, and now she's ready to let that come out, I think it creates a tremendous amount of fuel for people. The second is it creates an amazing filter for decision making. So a lot of times if you're not a confident person about when your yes is yes and your no is no, and you're looking at 2 or 3 roads and you're just not sure how to choose, knowing your purpose gives you a filter for having a great decision making or being able to make a great decision. And third is it's so fulfilling. So whether you're a 6 or a 7 or an 8 or a 2 or a 10, you know what that fulfillment feels like. And even though you still have, by the way, there's still challenges and struggles and days when they're not great days and completely crap days, but most of the time I feel a tremendous sense of fulfillment. Even when I'm facing the most challenging of things, I just feel fulfilled by what I get up and do every day because I'm naming and claiming it, because I'm creating an evidence journal of all the opportunities there is to do it. When I'm looking at my calendar and I'm saying, today I'm going to show up as my authentic, true self, and I'm going to make a difference in somebody's life. I'm going to inspire them. Hopefully I have inspired you today, but I'm going to inspire them. It's going to make a difference. And I know people are going to leave different than they came. But I just want to remind you more than anything, and I said this earlier, that your purpose is not your job. Your purpose is who you are wherever you are. So I want you to know, if you haven't found your purpose yet, I would love to talk to you more about that. Our second program that we have is a program called Passport, because here's what we believe is that once somebody, I've got my little yellow passport here, once somebody finds their purpose, it's like getting a passport. And I know we can't travel now, but pretend you could in a virtual world. Grab your passport and go wherever you want. I fundamentally believe that. And what we do is we help women take this passport and we help them create and carve a path to creating a purpose-fueled business and life that they love. And so in our Passport coaching program, it's a group coaching program. We've got over 40 women in that program right now. We get together once a week on a coaching call. We take topics. I bring content once a month. And then probably more than anything, our Thrive Tribe, Donna mentioned it earlier, creates a tremendous amount of community and success to support women to make hard choices, because they're going to have to make a lot of decisions. They're going to have to take a lot of actions to create the life they love. And the community is such an amazing support system. I say this all the time, but I could really not show up for the coaching calls and the community could pretty much carry each other. That's just the way that community is. It's one of the most special things. I've been on boards. I've been in women's organizations all my life. It's one of the most special things that I've ever seen is the complete giving of women to one another to support each other's goals and to support where they want to go in their lives. So if that resonates with you at all, if today was helpful, and I'm going to take some questions here in a minute, but I just wanted to give you a little URL. If you'd like to set up a time to talk, if this resonated with you, if you'd like to know more about our programs, just hop over to thrive-her.com/Tricia. Make sure that this T is a capital T, otherwise it does not like it. You'll get a little weird, funky error. But if you hop over to that URL, and I'll pop it into the chat as well, so that you've got it. Set up a time to give me a call, and it looks like, you know, this group looks largely like they are living their purpose and very satisfied and fulfilled and energized. But if any of those stories resonated with you, maybe you're in the middle of this pandemic and you're looking at your own circumstances and you're wondering, gosh, I don't want to go back to normal. I just don't want to go back to that life. I want to go back to something that's different. And you need the courage and the confidence to take that next step. That's what Thrive Her is all about. So I'm gonna I'm going to turn it over to Deborah. And Deborah, I know you've got, I saw one question, but tell me where you want to take it from here.
Tricia, thank you. And I want you to stay right here. Don't go anywhere. So I put a question up because I was getting a few on my cell phone. So I was typing them out for you. But I think with what we've experienced this year with COVID and so many uncertain things about future, how do you stay positive? What encouragement can you offer? Because I am hearing that women are struggling right now. So,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, y'all, and you're not alone. Let me just say that you're not alone at all, because I've noticed this trend over the last 2 months, especially since the kids have gone back to school, that women are much more struggling, and we're starting to get our feet and we're starting to kind of get the rhythm of it. But that shifted into a whole nother gear of struggle for a lot of us. So I want you to know you're not alone, and I would say probably more than anything that you should just realize you cannot pour from an empty cup, that you have to have sufficiency for yourself first before you can give and give and give to every bucket of your life. So if you're not in a community of some sort of women, like this group has been amazing today to get to know, but get into a community of women. And then for me, positivity really comes from choosing to be positive. And that may sound corny, but I think every result we have in our life starts with the thoughts that we really focus on every day. And when we focus on our thoughts, again and again and again, they become our belief system. So if I focused on, I just literally don't watch the news. That's one of my tips. I'll give you that one. I catch the news on literally like Facebook in the morning or a quick skim through some news thing. And I'm like, okay, got it. Enough for today. So I don't watch the news. I really take breaks throughout the day. So Jeff and I have something called a 2 o'clock brew that we take every day. We take a tea break or a coffee break and we just sit and chat with each other outside, and we take a walk or we do something outdoors. I spend time every morning in what I call my happy hour. So I start my day really filling myself up first. And I would say if you're not operating from sufficiency, I had a call from a friend this morning at my church who was in tears last night, thinking that she was having thoughts that something bad was going to happen to her family. She had just lost a baby after being pregnant for 8 months and lost in the 3rd trimester. And it's really messed with her. And I told her, like, when's the last time you got a good night's sleep? You know, when's the last time you, asked your husband for help with the laundry? Because that was really bothering her for some reason yesterday. I'm like, how about if you went home and asked Cody to help you fold laundry and you got a good night's sleep, and maybe you just sat in the bed and read and just turned your phone off, put it in a different room. And all of those things we already kind of know, but I will tell you the secret to positivity is choosing thoughts that are positive. And that sounds so corny, but that is literally, we have an ability to choose our thoughts. And if we choose the ones that serve us versus choosing the ones that make us suffer, that is the key, I think, more than anything else. Debbie has a question. How would you recommend a way for my college junior to find her purpose? She's struggling with the direction. Put her in my class. We take all ages. Like, we fundamentally believe purpose is kind of for every woman, every single woman. So Debbie, I can give you a link, and Deborah can provide one to you too after this. That is a link to just enroll her in our class. The class is $200, so it's not cost prohibitive. But I agree with you. I have a junior in college, and she thinks she's trying to navigate this thing, but she's really comparing herself to everybody else that's in college and what's going to pay the highest and do all the things. And I'm like, kid, this is so not you. Like, you're probably going to end up in a church somewhere or in ministry somewhere, but they kind of try to pretend or compare with everybody else in college, and then they miss the whole point. I think there ought to be a college class on finding your purpose before you enroll in a major. But Debbie, have her reach out to me at my link that I just gave you. I'll put my email in here and I'll send you a link to our class. And I think you should enroll her. We have women that are in that class that are in their 20s all the way up to women that are in their 70s, believe it or not. Because a lot of women retire and then they're like, oh my gosh, I'm not working anymore, but I still want purpose in my life. What does this look like after I've worked on my life? Because they think their job is their purpose. And it's just not. Tricia, you support so many women. What have been your best sources of support? Number one best source of support by far has always been having a coach. I've had a coach since I was in the 7th grade playing basketball. I kid around about that, but that's really true. Like, I've had a coach every phase of my life. Even when I was a teacher, I had a coach. Even when I was an early young professional, I went out and sold a deal to a company in Atlanta that had a program called, what it's now called Mentor 100, Mentor Exchange. And I paid for my own coaching with that. So I think coaches help you see your blind spot. They also, by the way, are really effective at helping you to take the right action and make decisions. Because most of the time we create things in our life by the thoughts that we have first. We have to really manage our mind. And then we create it by taking consistent and focused action. And so the only way sometimes that I can make the next decision and the next decision and the next decision is to get coached on it. I coach almost every day, but I get coached 2 times a week myself still. Okay, let me just see. Yeah, Chelsea said, amen, that this needs to be recommended as a college course. It really does. And people ask me all the time, what's the earliest age you'd recommend that somebody find their purpose? Like if I went back, we do this exercise with people called the life timeline. And it starts at your birth, and it's whatever your date is today. You could be 20 or 50 or 80 for that matter, but we have you kind of map out these peaks and valley moments in your life. And it really is not about how long your timeline is. It's about the themes that bubble up in your life. And you'll find themes. I mean, Oprah, when she talks about her purpose, talks about knowing in like the 5th grade that she wanted to be a school teacher and knowing that teaching was for her. And so I think you have these themes that constantly bubble up. And a lot of times we say, oh, that's not practical, or that's not going to get me enough money, or I'm not going to be able to raise my family with that. And all of the things. It's just, I think it's such an important part.
Tricia, that's a good segue. Well, I think about you in terms of business. You know, when you and I first met, you were wow, high-powered businesswoman, in the thick of it with Agile. And I remember coming over and visiting your office when I was starting the tech initiative, and just seeing how the pace that you kept.
Yeah.
Just the question though that I have is, you've made the change. You had a path that you prayed over. You felt that you clearly were going to move in a different direction. Right now, understanding what we do about COVID and how it's had us pausing and all of the different elements to where we all find ourselves today, in person, virtual, all of these things going on. Is this a good time for a woman in business to make a move? That next
y'all may not know that they're referring to this as the women's recession, because women have been disproportionately affected over men. And so a lot of women are faced with, how am I going to run this whole household thing if their kids aren't in school and do my job? And so women-owned businesses are growing at 2 times what they normally have grown through. Women-owned businesses of color, 4.5 times what the growth rates have been in the past. So I think it's a fantastic time for women to take a step forward. It doesn't mean you have to do it full time. Like I worked my job for almost 8 months before I left my full-time job. So if you take this time, nobody's passing by your cube every hour on the hour. You know, if you think about all the benefits of these things, but even if you just took an hour or 2 every day and you worked a little bit of your business every single day, it takes about 3 months to set a business up. It takes about 6 months to start, actually people start to recognize that you've got a business. And it takes about 1 year to 2 years to really get it some momentum going. So you don't have to start full time, but I think starting now is the perfect time. The biggest thing that I get from women right now is, well, how am I going to fit that in? You know, how am I going to fit that in? Because I've got all these things and I don't have the time to fit in, and I'm exhausted at the end of the day. To me, if you get aligned with your purpose, remember I talked about feel being one of the big payoffs of knowing your purpose. Y'all, that feel will put you on a whole different trajectory in terms of what you're able to get done, because you feel the energy of it every single day. So that's a great question. I think it's a great time. But I think it's kind of like having a baby or doing a lot of things that we do. There's never a perfect time. You just have to, this is the thing. Women just have to decide and then do it, because we're really good once we decide. Where we struggle is making the decision more than anything else.
So I want to hear your mission statement again, because I couldn't write it down fast enough, but it was that moment for you when you knew what your purpose was. Would you repeat that for us again?
Yeah. So my purpose is to inspire and activate. So it's one thing to inspire, then we got to get everybody in action. Women to live their purpose, leverage their strengths, and love what they do. Because I think when we're in that mindset, then we thrive personally and professionally. And like most women who have children and all of the things, you know, I was either like a good mom on Tuesday and then a really good CEO on Thursday. I could never quite get it all together at the same time. But I just think your purpose, when you're really in alignment, when you're living your true authentic self, when you're getting up and you're going to work and you're saying, I know I'm going to make a difference today. And it doesn't matter if you're a CEO or you wait tables in a restaurant or you sell insurance or you sell houses. When you know that the bigger why that you do it is to really serve and give back and make an impact on other people, that is where the joy comes from, I think, more than any place else.
Well, this has been wonderful. So great to have you. And yeah, I see that comment from Dawn Damon, live, leverage, love. I love
know. Yes. I love it. That needs to go on a t-shirt, doesn't it? Where's Heather? And she can make me some t-shirts.
Little bling there. Well, it's been so great having you, Tricia, and I'm excited about some things you and I are talking about for the future and some offerings through the Alpharetta Chamber of Commerce for our women. So we want to, again, just thank you and are ready to wrap it up. Before we do, though, I want to have Melody take the stage. And be sure, ladies, to check out the Expo feature again. We'll have it up there until midnight tonight. But Melody, let's go ahead and have you do some giveaways and last minute remarks about sponsorships. And I will sign off and say thank you.
And I will too, guys. Believe it or not, somebody's coming over to ask their fiance to get married today in about 30 minutes at my house. So I have to set up a little scenery in my backyard. But it was so good to be with everybody. Y'all take care. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you, Tricia. Melody, it's all you.
Well, hey, everybody. Thanks to some of our sponsors, we have some fabulous giveaways. Even though we can't be in person, you're still going to benefit. First of all, thanks to Gloria Mattei at Nothing But Cakes. Everyone will receive a coupon for a free buntlet cake, which you will receive via email from your registration. Use this coupon to pick up your cake at her store on Windward Parkway and check out their new fall flavors. So everybody leaves with something. Thanks also to Linda Baker of Margaret Lawton Nightgowns. She has donated 30 of these lovely lingerie washing bags for your delegates. They'll be available to the first 30 attendees to reach out to my email at memberservices@alpharettachamber.com to make an appointment to drop by and pick that up. Ann Wisniewski of AJW Designs has donated several decor pieces and a design consultation worth $300, which I hope you took note of in her expo booth. These lovely pieces will be given away to randomly generated winners who will be notified by email by Friday. So keep an eye on your inbox and congrats to the lucky winners. Also given away to random winners are 2 Alpharetta Restaurant Month cards from the Chamber. There's still a half a month left and plenty of opportunities to support participating restaurants where you'll receive 20% off your food bills at over 40 establishments. And if you're not a winner, you can still purchase an ARM card from the Chamber. And like I say, you've got 2 weeks, 20% off. That's still a lot of benefit to you. So other upcoming Chamber events include our annual golf tournament at the Manor on November 2nd. A lady won the recent clay shoot. So let's show some girl power on the links, ladies. And finally, we have our live in-person after-hours networking event called the Wednesday Social. On October 21st, we will be at Ray's at Killer Creek, and November 18th at the Phased Family Center on Morris Road. So look for all the details about the Chamber events on our website and reach out if you have any questions. Your Chamber's here to serve you. So thanks for being here today. And here's Deborah to wrap things up.
Well, thank you, Melody. And I did put in the chat feature that you will be able, well, we will send a follow-up email to all of you who have registered so that you can get that coupon to take over and see Gloria. Her cakes are amazing and she's such a wonderful community partner. And then Linda Baker's awesome gift, as Melody described, that will be something you'll need to email us. Let us know, and the first 30 will receive that gift. Come over to the office, and we look forward to meeting you. All of that to say, I hope this has been inspiring. Women who are walking the walk. Tricia's shown us how she's done that. It's important that we continue to meet together and share our lives with one another and encourage one another. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we will see you soon at a Alpharetta Chamber of Commerce event. Bye. Take care.